Hello, hello. My name is Caroline Lozano, and today I'm joined with Mason Cosby. He is the marketing director for Mojo Media Labs, and he's the current podcast host for the Marketing Ladder. Thank you for joining me today, Mason.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into your expertise on the digital marketing industry and any tips and suggestions you may have. So I wanted to start off by asking what got you started in digital marketing?
Incredibly long story short, I was laid off as a result of COVID. I had previously been working in print advertising and ended up just by sheer necessity. I needed to get a job, and the job that hired me was a marketing director or marketing analyst role that was quickly promoted into director at a rapidly growing technology company. And they had done entirely events based for their marketing. So by the proxy that everything was shut down, there was no events going on, like somebody had to learn how to do digital marketing. So as the only marketing hire, I learned how to do it.
Nice. Did you find that very difficult to start, or was it something you caught on?
I was very blessed by two things, and it genuinely is a blessing. For me personally, I had gotten engaged about a month before I got laid off, and then COVID hit. So I had a very clear timeline of I've got the ability to work 80, 90-hour weeks to learn in my spare time how to do digital marketing so I could do my job before my wife is my wife. So I had like a clear window of like, all right, I got 6 months. I got to figure this out.
Of course.
And
wow.
So that was a blessing in disguise. In reflection, like I accelerated my career exponentially as a result of having known how to do a lot of things. The other thing is in the industry that I served, it was loan management software, which is a very, for lack of a better word, outdated marketing maturity. So they just don't do advanced marketing today. So I really had a playground where there was very little digital competition. So like I wrote a blog, and it now to this day, it's the worst blog I've ever written, and it still ranks #1 on Google because nobody else was writing content. So like I had this playground to recognize, like when you do digital marketing well, it is incredible results.
Right. And I mean, it's funny you say that you wrote blogs. I write blogs mainly as part of my current job. And sometimes I look back at the old stuff that I used to write when I first started out in marketing, and it's atrocious. I'm just like, no, a lot of little mistakes here and there. I just wanted to ask you, like, what are some key traits and abilities, maybe some training that you think has served you, if you have any in your current position?
Yeah, I mean, for starters, and what has been another blessing is running my own podcast, interviewing a bunch of marketing leaders. So I hear what they're hiring for. And I've interviewed like 60 at this point in the past 3 or 4 months. So I know like what they're hiring for, and it makes it way easier to grow my own career. But the biggest thing that everyone has brought up is this concept of intellectual curiosity. So not just taking things at face value and saying like, oh, those are the best practices. Got it. I'm going to run with that. But understanding, okay, what are best practices? Why are these best practices? And should we still use them? Because once something has become a best practice, especially in the digital marketing space, it then kind of becomes like table stakes. Like everybody needs to do it in order to be like current. But the way that you actually grow is doing things that are different from best practices. You do something different than everybody else is doing. And that's where the intellectual curiosity comes in. You have to go and explore things that have not been done before, figure them out, grow them. And that's how you then grow a business, through marketing.
Yeah. I also think piggybacking off of what you're saying, also like since digital marketing, as we both know, it's something that's always evolving, it's always changing. I assume it's also like you also have to keep up to date with new trends, new tools and whatnot. So I wanted to ask also, like, what trends are coming up in digital marketing, if any?
Yeah. So
over the past,
over the past probably decade, there has been a growing reliance on technology and using tech that forces you to do marketing activities that you can specifically track. So a term that is coming up a lot more frequently is this concept of dark social. And the entire concept of dark social is it's all of the digital things that happen that your marketing software can't track. So for example, if I'm trying to close someone at Google, in the specific department that I'm trying to work with at Google, like a bunch of their team members are following me on LinkedIn and they like all of my content and they're making a ton of comments and they're copying and sending my LinkedIn post to other people. None of that information is tracked in a marketing attribution software or a CRM or anything. But it's one of the main drivers of actual buying decisions today is that community aspect, because one, when COVID hit, everybody started to even more rely on technology because they couldn't go face to face. And in that, more people started to find communities online and started to build their communities digitally. So as a result, there's all of these amazing online communities that are genuinely driving business results that no one can really track effectively. So there's been this rise of this concept of dark social as a result of it, and more marketers leaning into doing things that are the right things that are difficult to track as a leading metric. But what you do is you can see we do these things and then we start to see revenue increase. So marketing is now being associated with revenue more so than leading metrics like increased website sessions, leads, webinar attendees, things that were, again, marketing typically owned.
Yeah.
But now it's marketing and sales are starting to co-own revenue as a metric.
Interesting.
This is super nerdy. I can come more high level. I'm real. Like I hear myself, I'm like, man, I don't know that I would be tracking if I don't live this and breathe this all the time.
No, it sounds really fascinating, actually. And it's interesting that, with COVID, it sort of fast tracked it a lot. So it's more of you said it was like a community aspect of it, right? Wow.
Yes.
Wow. It's because everybody has been sort of migrating online. So more often. And I feel like it's continuing on even today, as the pandemic has sort of receded. Yeah. Another question I had for you is when you're creating a marketing plan or making a strategic decision about a piece of content or whatnot, what process or method do you typically use? Or do you? Yeah.
So by the nature that I market a marketing agency, the product that I am marketing is the concept in and of marketing itself. So it's a little bit meta in that sense. But the strategic process that I run through is I look at our current pipeline and I say, what do we need to do right now to increase our pipeline? Because I am trying to do two things at the same time. I'm also the lone marketer. So I do all of our own marketing. So I touch every aspect of it. So there's a balance of long-term. I want to build brand and awareness and create what is called thought leadership. I want to shape the way that people think through how they do marketing, and balancing that with, if our pipeline isn't where it needs to be right now, we will not increase our revenue and continue to sustain 60 days from now, because we typically have a 30 to 60 day sales cycle. So when my pipeline gets to a certain place, I'm like, all right, we're going to host a highly tactical workshop that I do almost every quarter that is called Fix Your Site, where I do live website reviews. And then we sell probably 8 website projects that then land and expand into new opportunities and ongoing retainers. The other 2 months out of the quarter, I'm focused around content that is shaping the way people think through their marketing and building brand. So for example, in about 3 weeks, we are hosting a conference that has 20 sessions called ABM-a-thon. I expect to make almost 0 sales off of that directly. But what I do expect to happen is that when people need help with their account-based marketing strategy, they will think of us first, because what agency hosts an entire conference in a day-long event to educate the market and not do a sales pitch? So that's the balance. is what do I do right now that will help our sales team, that will drive pipeline, that will drive revenue growth today, while also setting ourselves apart and differentiating ourselves from other agencies, and long-term becoming the thought leader in a specific space. And that space is HubSpot tech, ABM execution.
Interesting. I noticed that there's a lot of differentiation. Like the focus is how to make yourself stand out among, because I there's a lot of digital marketers and digital marketing consultants. It's a huge industry. So I find it really interesting that a lot of the focus is how to make yourself look different apart from everyone else. I'm curious, what are your favorite platforms or tools to use for your digital marketing or for content marketing or whatnot?
Yeah. So I think to some extent a bit bullish on, I want to bootstrap everything,
Right.
in the sense that I don't want people to experience hurdles and to give themselves excuses and say like, oh, I couldn't do that. So like my favorite tools are a free Zoom license and a recording and $100 microphone that I got on a Black Friday sale, to then have conversations like this with my ideal buyers, and to build a podcast, because anybody can build a podcast. It's just having conversations and then uploading it to Spotify. It's really, it's a lot easier than people give it credit for. And again, I just believe anybody can do it. And then building a LinkedIn profile and then writing content on a daily basis. I've built a following since September. I went from 1,600 followers to, as of 2 days ago, have surpassed 6,000 in 6 months.
Wow. Congrats.
Based on, and well, but anybody can do it. Like it takes time, it takes dedication. But what we're seeing now is by my own small, and again, very small personal brand presence on LinkedIn and the value that I try to offer other people, I, as an individual, am driving about half of our pipeline. And we have about $1 million pipeline. So that means that people are coming in, about $500,000 worth of pipeline is coming in saying, I heard of you guys through Mason Cosby on LinkedIn. I listened to Mason's podcast. Anybody can do that. And that is a massive play long-term. So that's like my soapbox answer. Now, as far as like, if you really want to do truly scalable long-term marketing, like you will need some pieces and some technology. I just don't want you to over rely on it. I use HubSpot for everything. So our marketing automation, our website, our sales software, and our customer service software is all run through HubSpot.
HubSpot is amazing.
I love
really
HubSpot.
Great.
And they have free offerings, so you can still do that for free.
Yeah, I know. I love using HubSpot, and I love their blogs. They've helped a lot in my case. With podcasting, is it something that you see in long term as something that could be valuable within marketing?
Absolutely. Like I
because like I asked because most of the podcasts that I've seen have been like, like let me give you an example, like movie podcasts or like something more like, entertainment based. I know there are marketing related podcasts, but I it's because from my experience, a lot of the media that's been consumed has been visual. So now all of a sudden audio is sort of booming. So I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So with a podcast, so for example, what we're doing right now, you can rip the audio from this and upload it into a podcast. We also have the long form video that you can then upload to YouTube. So if somebody wants to watch the full interview and see our facial expressions, and they've got a long form video. And what you can also do is then chop that up into small social clips. So, a 2-minute clip that takes this exact section right here could be distributed over social media. So by using a podcast, not only in and of itself is it a great content medium, because I listen to podcasts every single day on my drives. So I have one marketing podcast that I've listened to every day, and I started it in July. I've listened to now officially 200 episodes that are all at least an hour. Some are upwards of 2, sometimes 3 hours long. That means that I have spent at least 250 hours listening to one marketing leader. That is impactful. And I'm not the only one. he has 50,000 marketers that listen to his podcast. So he's got one of the larger podcasts. But the other piece to it is, I don't know how long we want to go on this soapbox because I can go all day, but essentially, like, it helps you to build an audience. It helps clarify your thoughts as an individual, because you have to know how to have these conversations with high level individuals. And then you also build those one-to-one relationships with high level individuals. I mean, the podcast that I've been listening to that's got 260 some odd episodes, about half of those are interviews. So he's interviewed 150 some odd executive marketing leaders, and he runs another agency. So what that means is he's building one-to-one relationships with about 150 marketing individuals that have the potential to work with him. And the response rate to someone saying yes to a podcast interview is roughly 80%. So even if you don't use it to build an audience, the fact that you can use a podcast to get on calls with people that normally would say no to a sales conversation is beyond impactful.
No, of course. No, I don't doubt you when on that.
No.
Yeah, it's just something that I've noticed that it's becoming more and more prevalent within marketing. That in a couple of years back, it wasn't. I mean, it was a thing, but it wasn't like like something that's now it's like pressing. Like, you need to have like a podcast. I feel that's what a lot of marketing leaders have been doing. Another question I have is, how do you keep up with current industry trends and news? How do you keep up with that? Because it's a lot. So,
two ways. One, I hate to keep coming back to a podcast, but it is genuinely what I.
It's fine. I mean, if you want to talk about it, it's. I mean, I'm open to it. So
yeah. So the two things that I do are one, I do record my own podcast. So I've had 5 interviews this week with VPs and CMOs on what they're looking to hire for. And by the nature that I understand what they're looking to hire for, I understand the trends that executive marketing leaders are looking at, because you hire for what you want to see happen. So I understand the trends that they're moving into. So for example, a lot of people are hiring what are called partner marketers. They're hiring community leaders. They're hiring influencer marketing in B2B. So that means that there's a large trend moving towards influencers, communities, and using partners and working between businesses to share first party data so that you can better close existing customers. So that's one. And then two, I'm on LinkedIn every day for about 45 minutes. So I post something every single day. And on top of that, there are about 20 people that I specifically and intentionally follow, and they post every single day. And I see what they say and I see what their comments say. And by understanding what they are speaking about and how people are responding to them, I then have a much greater understanding of what's actually happening in the market. So that's really it. And then I listen to other podcasts as well. So it's podcasts and LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn, gotcha. I sometimes what I do usually is I go on on Google News. Yeah. I'll look up. Yeah, that's one of the ways. But I think also LinkedIn has helped me as well to keep up with new trends and whatnot. I will try. I'll probably try out podcasts too, because I do listen to podcasts. It's just not a regular thing for me, but it's something that I've gone really interested in. Yeah. Where do you see digital marketing headed in the next 5 to 10 years?
If I'm completely candid, I can give theories, but I mean, I look at where we are today, and nobody anticipated anything of where we are today 5 years ago. I don't think people anticipated where we are today 3 years ago.
Of course.
So the emergence of Web3, which is a whole thing in and of itself. So NFTs and crypto and the blockchain, and it is something I've presently been resisting, because I just, the concept that something called a Dogecoin could be of immense value is mind-boggling to me. But I also recognize that Web3 is a big deal, and it is a shift in the way that we use the internet. So I don't know what it looks like, but I know that things like NFTs, and I understand that things like cryptocurrencies, and I understand that this concept of the metaverse will somehow play a part. And I'd be lying if I said I were super excited about it. I really love people interaction in person, and it's something that I am wary of, but I recognize is currently where the market is moving.
I've seen it too as well. So
the prediction is, for lack of a better word, like there will probably be larger mass market adoption of concepts like VR in the metaverse and cryptocurrencies and NFTs and Web3. And those that invest early and get it right will thrive. But probably 95% of the current NFT projects will fail as a result of it being a new entire industry. Like there's no precedent, there's no best practices that anybody can follow. So it's all new. And as a result, things will just inevitably fail.
of course. Can you briefly explain what Web3 is? I'm not too familiar with those terms.
Yeah. So Web3 in its most basic form is, this concept that people can create online and create digital assets and products, and that people that have built audiences will then be able to way more easily actually monetize those audiences. So there are individuals on TikTok that have got these absurdly massive audiences, or on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Instagram. And they currently struggle to understand how to properly monetize that audience. So they do influencer marketing, they do affiliate marketing, they do any number of things. Well, Web3 is a way that people can actually, that are creators, get paid for the value that they offer into the industry as a whole. So it's the big drivers of this are the NFT, which is a non-fungible token, which is clearly that term was not created by a marketer, because who would have gone with fungible? But that's a whole other joke in and of itself. So yeah, the NFT projects and the NFT movement is really what is driving Web3. And I want to be very, very clear. That is like the third grader understanding of what is actually happening. I am in no way, shape, or form an expert on Web3. I just know it is happening. So if I'm completely off, like, somebody please go fact check me, and don't take my word at that. But that is my understanding of it.
Oh, thank you for explaining it to me, because I have a very surface level understanding of NFTs and of meta and Web3. I have before you mentioned it, I had never even heard of it, so I'm not too familiar with it. But I do agree that I see like a trajectory towards that. It's really interesting how you said, like 3 to 5 years ago or 3 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to predict what's going on now.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I would have never had predicted Dogecoin or anything like that. Another question that I have is, in your opinion, what makes for great content?
So I've got a good friend that is currently waging war against this concept of commodity content. So commodity content is these, I don't know how familiar you are with BuzzFeed, but BuzzFeed would just come out with all these listicles of like 13 ways to love your spouse. And it was like, hold their hand, give them a hug, kiss them on the cheek. And it was like, well, duh, like obviously.
And with little GIFs.
Yeah. So that's awful content. Commodity, like good content has a unique point of view, has a unique perspective, helps me genuinely understand how to do something better, or helps me rethink how I think through something. It is a perspective shift. So for example, lots of digital marketers view paid social media advertising as an opportunity to get their ideal audience to click on something and purchase something or fill out some kind of a form. And it's a lead generation tool to just collect contacts. Someone that I listen to a lot has helped shift my perspective on the idea that paid advertising is guaranteed delivery to your target audience for a message. That is a perspective shift. So I'm no longer thinking through my paid ads as how do I get somebody to click, but how do I get them to read and engage with the message and learn something that they didn't previously know? That completely changes the way that you go about doing paid advertising on social media.
Interesting. Yeah, it's really fascinating. Yeah, it's another question that I had is who are some thought leaders or like digital marketing aficionados that you follow or recommend to other for other digital marketers?
Yeah. The a very large one that was foundational for me was a guy named Donald Miller. Donald Miller is the CEO and founder of a company called Business Made Simple, and his original company was called Story Brand. So that was the foundation for me understanding the concept of marketing messaging, and that really everyone is just on their own journey. So if you can frame your marketing and where you put the customer as the hero of a story, and you use your product as the solution that helps them overcome a problem, and you're just the guide that is sending them further along in their journey, people will buy and engage with your services. The next one would be a guy named Chris Walker. And I really view Donald Miller as a foundation, and I view Chris Walker as really the more advanced B2B marketing tactics and strategies. Another one's a guy named Sangram Verjee that really modernized the concept of account-based marketing. So really love everything that Sangram has put out. And then I really like his content on LinkedIn. He's recently released a book that I have yet to read, unfortunately, but it's a guy named Dave Gerhardt. He was the chief marketing officer at a company called Drift. And at this point, he now runs his own marketing consultancy called Dave Gerhardt Marketing Group. And it's just him. And he is revolutionizing the way that people actually think through brand and branding. So those are kind of the top four that immediately come to mind. If I were able to throw in one more, it'd be Nick Bennett. Nick Bennett is kind of the go-to voice when it comes to the concept of field marketing. And he just does a fantastic job of actually communicating what is field marketing. And field marketing is essentially like doing events. It is working directly with your sales team to make sure that they have the marketing collateral that they need to actually close deals. So field marketing's responsibility is really the pipeline, and actually making sure that we have enough deals going through the sales processes and that they're moving fast enough and that they close. So he's really talked a whole lot on that concept.
Right. And are they all on LinkedIn?
Donald Miller is the only one that's not on LinkedIn. He is more on Facebook, and he is a prolific author.
Gotcha.
He releases a book every single year on something related to business. So he's done that for the past 5 or 6 years. So he's got a ton of stuff out there from a book perspective.
Interesting. I'm going to be honest. First time I'm ever hearing about these marketers, so I'll definitely check them out once we're finished with the interview. Yeah. Another question I have is, what advice do you recommend to people who are trying to change careers and want to enter digital marketing?
Yeah. So by the nature, I run a marketing careers podcast. I get this question all the time. And the easiest entry point, if you go look at my LinkedIn, I've got over 65 certifications. Almost all of them were free. So the starting point is understanding the language, because I can have a conversation now and use like 15 acronyms in a sentence, and I understand what's happening. Whereas when I started in digital marketing, I didn't know I didn't know the language. So if you can't hold the conversation, it doesn't, like, the rest of it doesn't really matter, to be completely candid. Because if you can't talk the talk, you most certainly can't walk the walk. So that's where I'd start, is getting certifications that then help you understand the marketing language, because it is a language in and of itself. The next piece would just be building something on your own, or doing some kind of like really inexpensive or free labor. And the reason I actually encourage people to build something on their own is because it goes with them. So for example, I've done a ton of freelance projects for really cheap, but I struggle to figure out how to put those on a resume. Whereas my own personal branded podcast that I do every single week, like, that's mine. That goes with me forever. And it shows that I understand how to do the fundamentals of marketing, and I'm building relationships, and it's my audience that goes with me wherever I go. So that's why I, like, honestly, over freelancing, I just recommend building something. It could be a podcast, could be a blog, could be just building a LinkedIn presence and a following there, but go build something, because when you build it on your own, no one can really stop you from doing it.
Of course. And it's something that if you make a mistake, you can at least, bounce back, try something new, and continue moving forward. Yeah. It's really good. That's really good advice. Thank you. Also, on a final note, if we wanted to connect with you or just follow your content and learn more about what you do, where can we find you?
Yeah. So biggest place is LinkedIn. I post there every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. And I reply to every comment. So if you comment on something, I guarantee I will reply something that is hopefully thought-provoking, and we'll continue the conversation. The other place would just be on wherever you listen to podcasts. If you just type in my name, Mason Cosby, I should pop up, or you can type in the Marketing Ladder. I release 2 episodes a week at minimum, sometimes 3. And those episodes, almost everyone that I interview is actively hiring for marketing roles. So they are thought leaders in and of themselves. They are great individuals, and they're walking through step by step what they did that helped them build their career to where they become marketing directors at massive organizations, vice presidents, CMOs, or solo or entrepreneurs that have found great success building their own businesses in the marketing space. So I'm beyond blessed to be able to have those conversations and get to pick their brains.
Definitely.
I just happen to be the guy in the chair that asks the questions. That's about all I offer in that.
No, definitely. I mean, it's really nice that you're working towards, providing at least pieces of advice and, interviewing these really high level marketing leaders to help other marketers, gain growth in their careers. I think it's really valuable, and it's really helpful.
Well, thank you.
Do you have any closing thoughts or comments?
So the biggest piece would just be around functionally how to grow a career. Now at this point, having interviewed as many people as I have, like I've noticed the trends. So the biggest one is understand the breadth of digital marketing. There's a ton. There is paid advertising. There is social media. There is email. There is blog content. There are podcasts there. I mean, the list goes on. And just understand the breadth of it. And once you figure it out, after you had kind of a sampling of everything, say, I really love blog content, or I really love podcasting, or I really love hosting events. Like, understand the nuances to each of it, figure out where to dive deep, and then dive really deep. And then once you've gotten really good at one thing, dive deep into another thing and start to become what is called a full stack marketer. And you're stacking skills on top of skills on top of skills. And eventually you'll get to the point where you're so good, they'll say, man, we really want you to start managing people. But by the nature that you've done the variety of the jobs, you can manage those people well. And they may be better at it than you, but you at least know what's going on. You can speak into those things and have an understanding of how every single different piece of digital marketing fits into a comprehensive strategy that drives a business forward. So that is it. Like, that is 30 years in a minute. But it starts with that sampling. So that's why I recommend everybody start. Like, go do some certifications, like go talk to people, get on LinkedIn. You and I got connected through LinkedIn. You asked if I could hop on a quick call, and I said yes. And I am not alone. Everyone I message as on my podcast is prospected through LinkedIn. People are happy to hop on this call, start a podcast, right? Like, if you are struggling to get people on the call, start a podcast. Everybody says yes to a podcast. It's literally like 80% response rate. So you can have these conversations. You just record it and then you upload it to Spotify, and everybody's happy to hop on. They never ask how many downloads you get.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you for that. Honestly. Yeah, we'll all, I and anyone who's listening will take it to heart, honestly. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to possibly speaking with you again in the near future. Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.